It's time to accelerate. Hi, I'm your host, Andy Paul. Join me as I host conversations with the leading experts in sales, marketing, sales automation, sales process, leadership, management, training, coaching, any resource that I believe to help you accelerate the growth of your sales, your business, and most importantly, you. Hi, and welcome to the show. I am super excited to talk with my guest today. Joining me is Jon Ferrara, founder and CEO of Nimble. I would call it a social CRM system, but I know that's not exactly what it is, and we're going to talk about that with Jon today. Jon is one of the pioneers of the whole contact management space. He was the founder of Goldmine, which for many of us was the first CRM type tool we used in sales. And remember it very fondly because it was a great innovation at the time. You know, CRM systems are indispensable tools for companies of all sizes, and we think every company needs one, but do they all need the same CRM system? And on top of that, what are CRM systems really good at? I mean, how should they be used? And are they productivity tools or are they just a database to track activities? I mean, how do they help transform the productivity of a sales team? And Jon's going to help us sort this all out. Jon, welcome to the show.
Andy, thank you so much for inviting me to come join you in a conversation with your community. I love the opportunity to inspire and educate. Give me a moment to get up on my soapbox, and I get charged up because I love to teach and inspire.
Well, good. Well, we're going to have lots of time to do that. So take a minute, introduce yourself beyond what I had said, just scratching the surface.
Well, I really believe that in some respects, I'm the Don Quixote of relationships. I think that the more digital we get, the more human we need to be. And all of a sudden, it's become in vogue again to focus on serving other people and helping them grow. I think that we went through a period of Oracle, bag 'em and tag 'em sales mentality, and I think that the world is coming around through the innovations of social media, where we're all realizing the value of relationships and understanding that it's important to pay these forward, to become a trusted advisor to your customers. And it seems like I've been building tools for this type of quote sales all my life, because I grew up on my dad's car lot. I was inspired by my Uncle Jon, who was president of IEEE and helped create microwave and radar at MIT in the 40s. So I'm a blend of sales and technology from my birth. And I got started building these tools when I was a sales guy out in the trenches, and I couldn't manage my relationships and my leads and my engagement, and not just my engagement, but my team's engagement, and not just the people in my district office, but people back at corporate as well. And back then, there was no Outlook, there was no term SFA, CRM, or market automation. Basically, when we created Goldmine, we were the first platform that integrated contacts, email, calendar, sales, and market automation for not an individual and for the whole team, not just salespeople, but everybody in the company, because everybody in the company touches the customer. So I think that what people loved about Goldmine was it empowered customer-facing business team members to effectively be on one page with customers to drive value. And ultimately, that's what I think we're here to do, is to drive value with customers. I think that service is the new sales. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you've read my stuff, you know that I believe service, you lead with service, right? Sales is a service you provide to the customer to help them get their job done.
Amen.
So what were you selling when you started Goldmine? And for people that maybe don't remember Goldmine and maybe too young to remember Goldmine, I mean, this came of an age when lots of companies were still just starting to use email. I mean, it was really revolutionary at the time. I mean, we couldn't hardly believe that we could do this with that tool.
So back in the day when I started Goldmine, there was email and network scheduling, and those were the network business apps on a network. So basically, there was a thing called Novell that tied printers and hard drives together to share them between PCs. And this is what you basically would use standalone software and say, can you get out of the accounting system so I can get into it?
I remember those days, yeah.
And basically, people manage their sales on a spreadsheet if they're sophisticated. Most people did it with a thing called a day timer. So you got leads on a sheet of paper, you'd cold call them, make notes on it, then you'd essentially put your appointments in your day timer, you communicate with pink while you're out slips, and you did your forecast on a spreadsheet. And I thought that was dumb. And because I had a background in computer science. I worked my way through school and in computer land. I understood every single microcomputer program on the market at the time. And so I saw there was a need to blend email and calendar to contacts so that if I brought up a contact, I could have context. What's happened, what's going to happen, who's done it, who's going to do it. If you have that for a team, everybody can be on one page. And this is what people expect when you pick up the phone, is to know who they are, know what's happened, and to be able to follow up and follow through. It's the basics that wins games. But I also saw that you needed to be able to manage a pipeline. But most importantly, you needed some automated marketing, because out of sight is out of mind, and out of mind is out of money, honey. So I trademarked automated processes 25 years ago, which is if this and that for people and companies. So if you put a name in the Goldmine database and it looked like this, Goldmine would do that. Day 1 this, day 7 that. If this happens, stop this and do that. So if you sold them something, Goldmine would stop the sales track and start the nurture track, because it's the its cycle with a sale. If you buy a car, people generally start looking for a new car 3 years later. And so, people talk about SFA, CRM, and market automation, not recognizing that Goldmine not only pioneered contact management, but pioneered the idea of blending sales and marketing together to power that. And I believe that we're coming around to say the same thing. If you look at what people are saying today, they're almost repeating what we did back in the day. So basically, HubSpot's talking about how sales and marketing should have never been split apart. Salesforce is buying Pardot and putting marketing together with CRM.
Right.
The problem is that I believe that CRM isn't really about relationships. It's about reporting. It's not for you. It's for management.
Yeah, it's command and control.
It is. So if you think about the typical cycle at a company, what you've got is you generate these eyeballs somehow. In the old days, we did it with interrupt marketing. Today, we do it by inspiring and educating people with content. But ultimately, you want to get their eyeball. You drive them to your website, and you somehow convert them into an identity, and you stick it in your market automation system. So you got to go out and buy HubSpot, Marketo, Eloqua, or some market automation tool that captures a name and begins to nurture them. Once they're lead scored, which means they do some behavior that says that this is something a human should engage with, you put it in the CRM, which is another X amount of dollars. So let's say $30,000 for HubSpot and God knows what for your CRM. Then you give it to your sales rep, and the sales rep actually needs tools to do hand-to-hand combat. So if you think about the market automation as the bombers bombing the towns and the infrastructure, you need to put boots on the ground in order to actually win the battle, which means the sales reps need an SFA tool, sales enablement, some type of tracking tool to begin to do the one-to-one communication. Because if you're sending messages via market automation, it's not one-to-one personal. So then they have to go out and buy some type of email tracking program like ToutApp or Yesware or something. And then they're going to need intelligence, because if they don't understand who that person is and what their business is about, they won't be able to effectively engage. And so if you put all these things together, market automation, CRM, sales enablement, and sales intelligence, you have a stack of sales tools that's too costly, too complex. And I think that Goldmine, in fact, I know that Goldmine did all that 25 years ago. And that's why I got back in this business, is because I think there's a simply smarter way to manage the customer lifecycle. And I think what people need to focus on is not just prospects and customers, but even the community around them, including their influencers. And it's not just sales and marketing that should be engaging with them. And so the idea of Nimble is to become the simply smarter social sales and marketing platform.
Okay. So if you're a salesperson, give me what a daily routine would look like that's different using Nimble than it would be a conventional CRM system or this conventional sales stack that you talked about.
Sure. So let's think about the typical sales rep. They get a lead, it's stuck in their CRM, and they're told to go get them. What do you do? Well, first off, you need to do your homework, because sales is a service. You need to understand who that person is and what their business is about. So you Google them, you look them up.
Right.
And then you're supposed to go and log that information in the company database. So you log who they are and what their business is about. And then you go and engage. Where do you engage? You engage in your inbox, and now more and more in Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, et cetera, et cetera. So you go and engage in those places. And then you go back to the CRM to log what you did. And so what happens is the biggest cause of failure of CRM is lack of use, because you don't want to have to go to the CRM to serve it. You're working for your CRM instead of it working for you. And I think that's dumb. That's why the number one selling app in the Salesforce App Exchange is a plugin to Gmail that allows you to edit and update Salesforce records. And so, by the way, did you know that there's 225 million global businesses and less than 1% use any CRM?
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
And so most people's CRM is their inbox or a spreadsheet. So that's why I think that your CRM should work for you by automatically building itself. And so instead of you Googling somebody, you can Nimble them, and Nimble will go out and collect all that information for you. And so going back to the typical workflow of a sales rep, after you've looked up who somebody is and what their business is about, then what you need to do is you need to engage with them somehow. And so what many reps do is they try to go out and figure out their email, and there's tools for that.
Right.
They cost $50 to a few $100 a month. And once you have their email, then you try to begin to nurture the relationship. And what most sales reps do is they send them emails, and they basically try to hook them into a conversation. And so they'll send one email, and if that person doesn't reply, they'll send the next email. If that person doesn't reply, they'll send the next email. And you get these emails, right, Andy?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so in many cases, those emails feel like they're sent by a machine because they're not really talking to you in a one-to-one personal way. Would you agree to that?
Well, absolutely, because they're also all prefaced with the word hi.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, you got this SFA or sales enablement tool. You've got this CRM tool, and then you got the market automation tool. So when the lead goes in the database, the market automation tool nurtures them, sends them information, and that person, that lead, either goes back to the website and downloads a ebook, they go to a webinar, they go into our trial, and at some point that person scored high enough where the sales rep needs to get involved. They put it in the CRM. The sales rep Googles them. They log what they know. They engage. They log what they did. They use a sales enablement tool to email them, and they somehow get that person in a conversation where they try to qualify them and close them. And that's basically the life of a sales rep. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So, well, the one difference, though, is, I guess, so I'd extend the question further. Say, okay, so if you're a sales rep with sort of a blank slate and you don't have a marketing automation system or an inbound marketing system, content marketing, feeding you with leads, whether marketing qualified or sales qualified, whatever, how do you use Nimble then to help yourself prospect?
Well, I truly believe that if you teach people to fish, they'll figure out you sell fishing poles. And so what I would recommend to every sales rep is to become a trusted advisor to their prospects, customers, and the influencers of them as well. And you do that by giving your knowledge away, by inspiring and educating. I call it the 5 E's of social business: educate, enchant, engage, embrace, and empower your customer. And so most sales reps have forgotten more about their products and services or their industry than most of their customers will ever know in their lives. If they simply gave that knowledge away on a daily basis, then their prospects, customers, and their influencers would see them as a trusted advisor. And when they're making a buying decision, they would not only consider them, but they would bring their friends with them. And I know you know what I'm talking about, Andy, because you do this exact same thing on a daily basis. In fact,
Right.
That's why we're having this conversation, is because you understand the value of inspiring and educating. And this conversation will inspire and educate not just your community, my community, but also a prospect of people who are interested in being better and smarter, faster at sales and entrepreneurship. And when they hear this podcast, they will begin to see you as a trusted advisor. And if they do need help being better, smarter, faster in sales, guess who they're going to call?
Right. So back to the question, though, just to sort of finish the connection at the end of the circle. So for a sales rep that's using Nimble, how do they use that then to help become that trusted advisor? Because you've got some specific attributes that are a little different than most conventional CRM systems.
Yeah. Okay. So if you are going to begin to share content to inspire and educate, as opposed to sending somebody a quarterly or a monthly newsletter
Right.
about how great your products and services are, you're going to, on a regular basis, inspire and educate, teach people how they can become better, smarter, faster in and around the areas of promise of your products. They will then see you as a trusted advisor and begin to +1 like, comment, retweet, or otherwise engage with you. And so if you do what we tell you to do is to inspire and educate, then you're going to begin to generate bytes, signals. What do you do with these? So today, Andy, I see that you've got 3 different Twitter identities, and on those different identities, you've got a number of followers. You've got over 15,000 followers, and on a regular basis, you're sharing content, and people are biting on that content. If you don't engage with those people, then they're just wasted engagement. So you need to reel these contacts in and begin to connect with the right customer at the right time on the right channel, and turn connections into conversations and relationships into mutually beneficial business outcomes. I just think it's hard to do that in our over-connected, over-communicated world. And that's where Nimble excels, because it can take any connection and turn it into a measurable business outcome by taking any connection in your email, in your calendar, in a social stream, in a Forbes article, and take one bit of information, convert that into a 3-dimensional record of who that person is, where they're from, where they work, what they're influential in, where they went to school, if they're an investor, what their company's about, what size it is, what industry it's in, and then allow you to begin to segment those contacts into people that matter and reach out and build those trusted relationships that result in you growing your business.
Yeah, because one of the things that Nimble does is it provides you the social footprint of the person this contact. And so you can see the conversations they're having. You can see the things that are important to them that they're communicating about, that they're having conversations about through their network.
Yeah, but the thing is that people talk about social. Well, first, when we started pioneer this space 5 years ago, people were saying social. My wife does that. And today, I think that you can't throw a rock without somebody telling you that they're a social selling expert. But the reality is that business has always been social. People buy from people they like, and they like people that know them. It's your job to understand who somebody is so you can figure out how you can help them grow. But you do that by developing intimacy and trust. And that's usually built around sharing commonalities to break the ice and build that trust. It's just, in the old days, we did that by going in somebody's office. Today, you do it electronically. Nimble just makes it easier. But beyond the social aspects, I think that one of the key things Nimble does is it automatically builds the contact database by synchronizing your email and calendar to contacts for you and your team. And you can't underestimate the value of that, because that's what context is. Mm-hmm. Context is what's happened before and what's happening next. And then it enables you to have that context, not just email, calendar, but social history and what's going on now everywhere you work. Because if you're spending your time in your CRM, you're not spending time conversing with customers. And so I'll ask you, Andy, what do you spend your day in Outlook, Address Book, or Google Contacts, or do you spend your day in your inbox and in social streams with your customers?
Yeah, the latter, absolutely.
Okay. So if you're doing that and you come across a conversation, how do you follow up and follow through? How do you create a record? It's too hard. And so the biggest cause of failure of business is lack of follow-up and follow-through.
Right.
It's the basics that wins games. And that's where most of us fail, is because we don't say what we're going to do and do what we say we're going to do. And the reason we don't is because we have to go to the CRM or the contact tool to log and update that stuff, and human beings aren't good at that. And so that's why I built Nimble, so it works for you by building itself, so you don't have to look people up and log what you do, and then works with you everywhere you work. Because if you're a smart business person, you're walking in the digital footprint of your customers on a daily basis to stay top of mind and setting yourself up as a trusted advisor, which means that you're spending your time in your inbox, on your phone, and in social media, and Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. And so Nimble will auto-magically build records out of any bit of data from any place in those streams intelligently, or bring up a record to allow you to see the context and then get insights on them and their company. And most importantly, be able to schedule the follow-up and follow-through things that you need to do, because as John Wooden said it best, it's the basics that wins games.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to take a short break here, and we'll be right back with my guest, Jon Ferrara. But John, before we go, I'm going to pose a hypothetical scenario for you. And I ask this question of all my guests. And here's the scenario. You're a new sales manager, you've been hired into a company whose sales have sort of flatlined, and the senior management wants to turn it around as quickly as they can. What two things would you do the first week that could have the biggest impact? So think about that, and we'll come back and get your answer after the break. This is Andy Paul with my guest, Jon Ferrara.
Attention, sales leaders. Would you like to give your sales team the tools to drive more quality connects, scale their outreach, and spend more time selling? Well, you can with LiveHive. Get your ROI. Try it now at livehive.com/ROI. That's LiveHive, LIVEHIVE.com/ROI.
Hi, welcome back to the show. My guest today is Jon Ferrara, founder and CEO of Nimble. You can find them at nimble.com. So, Jon, let's talk about the hypothetical scenario I posed right before the break. New sales manager hired into a sales turnaround situation. What two things could you do in the first week that would have the biggest impact?
Well, Andy, the funny thing is about most businesses is that they ignore their existing customers. And the easiest person to sell to is somebody that you've already successfully sold to before.
Right.
And so the first thing I'd do is I'd go in and mine their data. I'd mine their accounting data and their CRM data to identify people to reach out to reignite relationships, to begin being part of the decision cycle on helping them become better, smarter, faster. Then what I do is I take the profile of these people that I found that are sort of perfect fit customer, and I'd apply that lens to the pipeline that we have existing so I can narrow the focus on the best people, or I'd use that profile to go find new people out in the stream through a variety of methods to fill the pipeline up.
Love it. Great answer. Great answer. So let's talk about sales productivity. I mean, because one of the things that with CRM tools, maybe fewer than 1% of the companies, enterprises in the world have one. And of that percentage that have them, it seems like, other than maybe some really major enterprises, that most companies don't use them, right? It's always a struggle to get the data in and to get the sales reps to use it because they don't find there's anything really useful there for them, as you had mentioned before. How do you begin to address that issue? I mean, it seems like the whole category is sort of at risk if people aren't using the tool. I mean, how do you use CRM as a sales productivity tool as opposed to just a command and control tool?
Well, the fact of the matter is that CRMs are not sales productivity tools. CRM systems are reporting platforms. It's a database that you define what data you want to beat your sales reps to type in, and then what reports you want to get out of that. And your sales reps hate the CRMs. It's a fact of life. And that's because the CRMs don't do anything for them. They have to go look people up. They have to log what they did, log what they know, and log what they think they're needing to do, and log their forecast. But where is the CRM actually delighting that sales rep by automatically building itself and then working with them wherever they work and mining that information to help them to connect to the right customer at the right time on the right channel? It's not. And so if you think about it, what sales reps loved was their relationship managers, their gold mines and their acts and their telemagics, because it was about powering them. They loved the fact that Goldmine would automatically do work for them because, let's face it, human beings don't scale. There's a Dunbar limit to the amount of contacts that you can manage in your head. It's 100 to 200, and most people have 10,000. And so I think that there's a term SFA, Salesforce Automation, that was really about empowering sales reps, whether you talk about contact management or SFA. Today we call that sales enablement, we call that sales intelligence,
right,
and we call that email tracking. And so the reason why most sales reps pay out of their own pocket for the sales enablement tools is because they want to be successful. They want to get those high commissions. And I could tell you the story of an Oracle sales rep that contacted me to gift me dinner with their CEO and CIO at Nobu, which I took him up on that.
Of course.
And to go to an air show to see the Blue Angels. Now, how many emails do I get like this on a regular basis from sales reps wanting to do a Dodger game or whatever? You know, it happens a lot, but this one particular one stood out to me But it was also interesting that he uses ClearSlide to do that. And I quizzed him. I said, well, does your company pay for this? He says, I pay for it. And so ClearSlide is not different than ToutApp or Yesware, which
Right.
is an email tracking program. And basically what these programs do is they allow you to build templates and then send these templated messages to people and track if they opened it, if they clicked it, if they replied,
Right.
if they didn't reply, and automate the follow-up. The problem with a lot of these tools is that they come from a machine. You can see they came from those platforms as opposed to their personal email address. And that's how I knew he was using a machine. I believe that in order to break through the over-connected, over-communicated clutter, you need to first off start out with a database that has insights and context. Then you can segment that database effectively and then message them in a one-to-one way. Even if you're sending 50 emails, the email comes from you. It's messaged to them, to Andy, and it references things that are contextual, that shows that you've taken time to understand them and their business so that when they read it, it basically feels personal. So if I was sending you a templated message from Nimble, it would come from your email or my email, Jon at Nimble, and then it would have reference to our areas of commonality, the last time we spoke, the status of our connection, something that said this is not a machine. And I think that that's what the future of CRM will be, is a blend of marketing automation, the typical customer reporting management that's necessary for management, but also the sales enablement and sales intelligence that you need for the customer-facing rep to do the hand-to-hand combat. And I think we need to move beyond prospects and customers and sales and marketing to a vision of a unified team at a company engaging the community around them in a unified conversation, because today you have islands of information in a company: CRM, sales and marketing, social media, accounting, and then you have your contact tools, and nobody talks to each other.
No, I'm just sitting here thinking about what you said. Yeah, you caught me. Yeah, it's an interesting vision, right?
Well,
I mean, if you really have the focus on the customer, then these silos really just begin to break down.
So let's talk about the silos for a second. In a typical company, you've got a sales system, a marketing system, a social media system, and an accounting system. So let's say it's Salesforce, NetSuite, Marketo, Zendesk, and Hootsuite. And you can change those out to be, SMB versions of those or whatever. But and then you have your contact tool: Outlook, Address Book, or Google Contacts. So you have contacts in 6 places, right? And you have these tools being used by all these different departments, and none of them talk to each other effectively. And in many cases, if you're using Google Apps, the contact record is different for every team member. So do you use Google, by the way, Andy?
I do.
Okay. So you may not use it with a team, but did you know that Google Apps contacts aren't connected to the email or calendar? So if you bring up a contact, you don't have context. And every single team member has a separate contact database, which means you don't even have a unified contact database. So in many companies today, which for Nimble, over half of our customers are using Google, they don't have a unified contact record in their company. And that's what Goldmine started with 30 years ago, was unified contacts for everybody in the company, automatic email and calendar to the contact, with automated sales and marketing in order to nurture and close business. So, what's funny is that the more things change, the more things stay the same. Yeah. And it seems like everybody's sort of coming back to this vision of what we built with Goldmine. But today, you need even more help. And that's where the intelligent data comes in. People will tell you everything you need to know about them and their company, and they have an expectation that you're going to use this information to understand who they are and personalize your service. And the reality is most people don't take advantage of this. So I think that there really needs to be a rethinking of what CRM is, how companies engage customers, and how they work as a team to do that across their whole organization.
Well, and I think that's really the key point. I don't the fault is not so much the fact that there's, the centralized data or this command and control structure and CRM and so on. It's that it's not about putting the customer first, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if we get salespeople to start thinking about the fact that they have to be deliberate and thoughtful, every time that they're reaching out to interact with a prospect, right? I mean, what is the goal? What are they trying to achieve? What's the value they're going to deliver by consuming some of the prospect's time? What are they going to give them in exchange for that time? And then you can start making a real change, right? Again, the tool like you're talking about with Nimble that provides, all the elements of the sales stack pretty much into one source, starts becoming pretty valuable for these people, because if they know how to use it, take advantage of it in service of the customer, then it's a whole different world.
And I love what you just said about valuing your customer's time, which means doing your homework before a meeting.
Yeah.
You should already know who that person is and what their business is about and how you might help them become better, smarter, faster. You certainly want to go into the meeting and ask open-ended questions and listen to learn more, but you shouldn't be starting fresh at the basics.
No, that's really sort of one of my frustrations, in this business that I've been in for a long time, and I'm, as you said, trying to educate and inspire people, is that we see these same mistakes being repeated over and over and over and over again, even by companies whose products that they're selling ostensibly solve the problem, right? I mean, there are companies that are selling like dialers, right? We're going to improve and modernize the technology for inside sales teams. And I know, because I know the principals of several of those firms, that they know what they should be doing, but their salespeople still call me all the time or send me email, and I'm not a prospect. I'm not their prospect. I know what their ideal client profile is, and it's not a one-man shop, right? So these companies are still guilty of it. And it continually just blows my mind that this is still occurring, right? That where it's like, it sort of calls to mind, I remember this book written about education called, Why Johnny Can't Read. And I sort of made up my own version about that. Is, why can't sales learn? Because here we are talking about the sales you talk about. We're seeing problems being solved today by a solution that you created 25 years ago. Then we're coming back to that, in essence, in many ways. And yet we still, these groups of salespeople with all this great thought leadership and training programs available and so on, is we're still solving the same basic problems in sales that have existed for quite some time.
And I also think it's funny, Andy, that people think that social media is LinkedIn. And that LinkedIn is the place for your business identity. I don't know about you, Andy, but when was the last time you went into a LinkedIn group?
It's been a while.
Yeah. And so...
because they became spam for the most part, right? I mean, there were some that I followed, but unless the person who owned it moderated it really carefully, 90% of them plus.
When was the last time you basically +1 somebody's attributes on their LinkedIn profile? I forget what that's even called. I really believe that that we need to move beyond the LinkedIn resume when we're talking about social media, and begin to understand that humans connect to other humans on areas of commonality, and it's way beyond business. That our areas of commonality are our passion, plan, and purpose. And these include our personal things like food, family, sports, all kinds of different things, hobbies. And when we connect with another business person, you don't say, "Hey, Andy, I'm calling about that proposal." You say, "Good morning, good afternoon, good evening." And then you might say, "Dang, I wish those Cubbies did a little bit better last night. It would be neat to see them go all the way," or whatever it is you're talking about. Or if in your instance, I might talk about how the Chargers almost got that one, right? It's like, dang.
Darn, yes.
Right? And then you move on to the business stuff. But what happens is it's the personal intimacy, trust, and stories that keep us connected, that maintain that human bond. And the business stuff is just an addition to that. And so I think that as a business person today, you need to be aware that it's not just marketing people that should be using social to build connections with your community around your business, that you need to empower all of your team members to build their brand and grow their network, to set your company brand up. And then those brands and those conversations shouldn't just be on LinkedIn. It should be on all the different places that your customers communicate and consume information. And today, that goes beyond Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, Foursquare, Google+, and places like Blab. So I see that you, on a regular basis, share content across all those different identities. Where do you get most of your engagement?
Twitter and LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think those are the two pillars. And I'll tell you what, though, on a personal level with people and friends like you, it's Instagram and Facebook for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm migrating more into Facebook, and I absolutely see that in 2016 for me is going to become much, much more prevalent in my plans and my work.
Because I know that you, we share many friends in and around the areas of our expertise. And I'll tell you what, it's the conversations that I have with Matt over barbecue, with Ken Krogh over Boy Scouts, with Jorge over his girlfriend in Brazil, with Barbara over her dog, with Lori Richardson over her love of powering women, thought leaders, and
talking about hockey. She loves hockey.
Yeah, right. And so I think that if you're a business person listening to this today, don't underestimate the power of human personal communications. But you know what, Andy? This isn't any different than it was 100 years ago.
No. And the thing that's so interesting is that you see increasingly in sales training that they are training people to take the personal out of it. If you start a phone call and ask somebody how they're doing, you've committed a cardinal sin. Well, first of all, you should never ask that question because, as you said, you should be deep enough in knowledge about them that you have something personal that you can share and start a conversation with. Talking about sports, talking about the family, talking about whatever, right? That you've seen out there. And you have the opportunity. Before the internet, the way I used to do that, I'd go into a customer's office the first time I was meeting them, right? I would oftentimes, back in the days of making lots of cold calls, walking the streets. And if they had, a Green Bay Packer pennant hanging in the office, I'd talk about it, right? I'd look for visual cues because people, back then, before cubicles, when people had offices and so on, they had stuff arrayed on their desk that was, communicating something about them. And they loved engaging. It didn't take a lot of time. In fact, it saved time ultimately because you made that connection.
Exactly. And so this is what I teach is about the power of human connection to build intimacy and trust so that person opens up to you about their business issues, which as a professional you can then solve. And the problem today is where you're doing that a lot of times is in your inbox and or your business tools and or in social media, but it's one dimension. And so you need multiple dimensions to fully understand who somebody is. And I teach a story about that to find a point on a map, you need longitude, latitude, and altitude. And if I just gave you my longitude and altitude, can you find me?
I don't know. Possibly at some point, yes. I mean, there's a finite number of spaces that fit that, so eventually I could, yes, but it'd take a while.
Longitude and latitude is the X and Y, and altitude is the height. So without the one of the X or the Y's, you're not gonna find me unless you're flying around the Earth with a. Well,
I said as you go up 360 degrees around the Earth, there's a finite number of places you could be, but it would take forever.
So you won't find me,
right?
So basically, it's kind of like saying, one dimension is enough to understand somebody. And so what Nimble does is if you put a name in the database, it'll automatically map their identities across all these different spaces, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, Foursquare, Google+, Crunchbase, AngelList, etc. But not only map the icons, because the icons don't tell you the story. We bring the data down into the database, which means you have who they are, where they're from, where they work, what they're influential in, where they went to school, where they last checked in, if they're an investor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, what their business is about, what industry it is, what size it is, what revenue it is, what location. But the cool thing about it is by the time this podcast hits, you will begin to be able to build smart segments on that data. So not just the data you put in the database, which is going to be limited, but the data that we bring down from their identities, which they're personally updated on a regular basis. And then you could build smart segments and let Nimble take action for you. So if somebody follows you that looks like this, you could do that. Somebody signs up for a trial or goes to your website that looks like this, you could do that. Where it could be day 1, do this, day 7, do that. And ultimately, we all need a little nudge on our shoulder that helps us because we are truly over-connected and over-communicated, and it's hard to find the needles in the haystack these days. What do you think?
Well, I think it's a great idea. Just make sure I understand. So what you're talking about is you're adding some sort of rules-based capabilities in there so that if certain things occur, this needs to happen.
Yes, but the first thing that we're adding is Nimble today automatically maps people and company identities across all the spectrum. We also bring the data down and keep it up to date on a daily basis. So that's what I mean by we're the first CRM that works for you by building itself. We automatically link email and calendar so you have contacts. We automatically link the identity so you have insights. Now you'll be able to begin to segment that into groups, which means I could then say, show me all the sales thought leaders that are in San Diego. Show me all the people that are connected to AAISP. Show me, and then you could take action against that. And so I think that that's a huge step up in the whole idea of smart data, big data, and social data. And one of the things I'm really excited about is the fact that we do this for you automatically on some of the key data segments. So we will pre-facet the data to give you the top N occurrences of title, company, industry, area of influence, location, school, which means that you can automatically know the fingerprint of your best customers and all their different facets and then be able to segment off that, which for me, I think that CRMs are databases.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest problem with the database is bad data. And so we're solving that by building it for you. And then you can take it with you everywhere you go, because I think the biggest cause of failure, like I said before, is we don't follow up and follow through. It's because you have to go to your CRM to do it. And I think one of the things we all need is something that takes action for us. And so today, these, having to go out and get these sales enablement, sales intelligence, market automation, CRM things, it's just all too much. And so if I go to your website and look at what you use for marketing automation, I could tell you right now what you use.
Mm-hmm.
You're using, hang on a second, HubSpot.
Correct.
And so the thing is that for somebody to go out and buy, HubSpot, Wistia, WordPress, and get all that working together, it's quite a bit, isn't it, Andy?
Yes.
And expensive.
Aspects of it are, yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that having a blend of one platform that does the core basics of relationship intelligence, market automation, email intelligence, and the CRM stuff is really kind of the future of how we're going to engage. Because, a lot of people like Miles use a combination of tools like Infusionsoft and a variety of other tools. And it's just, I think it's too hard.
Yeah, well, there certainly is that, right? I mean, there's certain tools there's a payoff once you master them, but the prospect of mastering them or the process of mastering them can be fairly long time, right?
It is.
So yeah, if you're like me, sometimes I need to hire people to help me with that. So what you're saying is, and make this one point, and then we'll take another short break, is that we could look forward to Nimble perhaps building in the ability to do, email sequences and so on.
Yes.
Very interesting. Okay. Well, we're going to take a short break. And again, we'll be back with my guest, Jon Ferrara.
Hi, this is Andy. I have a special offer for loyal listeners of Accelerate. It's a no-obligation free trial of my zero-time selling interactive online training. Now, I've worked with thousands of sales reps to teach them how to use my zero-time selling to boost their productivity and transform the results. And so if you want to learn the same proven strategies to help you open more doors, have more effective sales conversations with prospects, and close more orders, then my zero-time selling interactive training system is a fit for you. It's incredibly simple to start. Just take out your smartphone and text the word TRUST, that's T-R-U-S-T, to 96,000. Now, do you have your phone ready? Send a text to 96000. That's a 9 and a 6 followed by 3 zeros. Now enter the single word message TRUST and hit send, and you hear right back from me with instructions on how to sign up for your free trial on my zero-time selling interactive training. I look forward to seeing you there.
All right, I'm back with my guest, Jon Ferrara, founder and CEO of Nimble. We've had a great conversation so far about, philosophical conversation in many respects about CRM and connectivity and being connected on a personal level to your prospects in order to build that relationship to become that trusted advisor. So let me ask a little more prosaic question about Nimble. Is who's sort of your ideal customer profile? For people listening to this, how can they identify themselves, against what the type of customer you sell to?
Well, Andy, I truly believe that your network is your net worth, that your personal brand plus your professional network equals your professional net worth, and that most people don't do a good job of managing and nurturing their golden Rolodex. Now, many of your listeners may not know what a Rolodex is, but it's a collection of business cards in a rolling file thing.
On a spindle, yes.
And so today, where is your golden Rolodex? It's in your phone. It's in Outlook address book or Google Contacts, and it's in Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. And what you should do is take those contacts and put them into a cloud-based solution that's constantly updated so that you can always have context and insights on every contact that you're engaging with. Because if you have the right context and insights, you can then take the appropriate and contextual and authentic action to follow up and follow through. And who is that? Andy, it's really every business person. Because it's not just salespeople that need to be worried about their brand or their network. And most people will not work where they work in 1 to 5 years. On average, it's 3. And so our customers are typically individuals in small, medium, large, and enterprise companies, because it's not just an SMB problem, and it's work groups. So it's teams of 2 to 25 in those companies. And so, a lot of people talk about SMB and small business. Well, departments within companies behave like small businesses.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Individual people using Nimble at all sizes, and these people become Trojan horses into the companies. And the interesting thing is that Nimble doesn't have to be your CRM. In fact, I don't know if I've said this or not, Andy, but I don't like the word CRM.
Well, I've gotten that impression, yeah.
Yeah, I think CRMs are for management. I think they're customer reporting platforms. But I do love a intelligent relationship platform that works for you and works with you. And I think that's the future of business. So my vision is I'm going to give away Nimble in the cloud and on your phone and let you put your golden Rolodex in there and nurture it, curate it, and then slowly upsell you into a smart marketing system, because I think we all need our own personal, intelligent relationship platform, and then use that as a Trojan horse to go into a business, because Nimble will actually work inside your CRM. So if you use Nimble to identify a new contact in LinkedIn, you could build a profile with one click across all their identities from that LinkedIn page or Twitter page or Facebook page or email. And then you could either decide to work with that person in Nimble or put them in Salesforce, where we'll automatically and instantaneously build a record in Salesforce for you. And for any record that is in Salesforce, if you Nimble them, if you use our browser plugin, we will give you immediate insights and context on that person in your CRM, in your marketing system, in your social dashboard, in your accounting system. So that vision I had that I shared with you before about we need a unified contact record for a company, Nimble works and is in smart inside of Outlook, Gmail, Salesforce, marketing things like HubSpot, social things like Hootsuite. And so you could bring Nimble up inside any of those programs and work with the data. And I think that I don't really care if you pay us to be your Simply Smarter social sales and marketing system or add value to your existing sales, marketing, or social systems.
Very interesting. So what you're saying is my Nimble bill is going to go to zero here shortly.
Well, your Nimble system will be free if all you want to do is put contacts in the cloud.
Got it.
Up to 5,000 records. But if you want Nimble to automagically keep the social data up to date, synchronize your email and calendars, and be able to take action for you, then you pay us.
Sounds fair. Well, good. Well, this has been a great conversation. So now we move into the last segment of the show. We've got some rapid fire questions for you. You can give me one-word answers. You can elaborate, expound if you wish. You ready?
You bet. Fire
okay.
away.
First question. What's the most powerful sales tool in your arsenal?
My heart, my ears.
Love it.
I think that if you listen from your heart with a vision to serve, that you have no possibility but to succeed, because people will tell you exactly what you need to know in order to help them become better, smarter, faster.
You need to write that book. So, name one tool, I think I know the answer to this, that you use for sales management that you can't live without.
My soul.
Okay.
I truly believe that the reason people remember me is because of my heart and soul and my passion. And that's what's helped me to succeed in life. I bet you thought I was going to say Nimble.
Well, it did cross my mind, as a matter of fact, yeah.
Yeah, Nimble and Goldmine are just an extension of I think my innate skills in human engagement, and I try to pour the skills that I have into those platforms to empower other people to be gifted with some of the things I was born with.
So, do you have a lot of brothers and sisters?
I've got 5 brothers and 1 sister.
Okay, I don't know, just not the stereotype, but you sound like somebody that came from a big family that was, always wanting to be heard.
I'm the youngest.
So am I, out of 4.
My dad was born in Sicily and my mom's Irish, and there was it was loud. Let's just say that.
Let's say that's right. Very good. So, who's your sales role model?
I think that Dale Carnegie and Zig Ziglar, I think that everybody continues to build on the shoulders of giants. And when I hear people talking about all these ideas of social selling, I think I've heard all these things before, and I think that they said it best, but I'd have to say it's my pop, my dad.
He was in sales?
My dad had an automobile dealership, and I grew up on my dad's car lot.
Oh, that's right.
And what's funny, Andy, is I swore I'd never be in sales. I didn't want to be my dad. I wanted to be an astronaut, a computer scientist. I went and got a degree in computer science and math, but I think I've been successful in my life because of the blend of my mentors, my uncle from the scientific side and my dad from the sales side. And it's my dad's relationship skills that I learned through osmosis that have powered my life.
So what type of cars do they sell?
Well, my dad was the #1 Lincoln Mercury guy in the country back in the 60s. And later on, he had a Subaru dealership, the first Subaru dealership in California. And he also had some used car dealerships. And back in the day, I could name any car, any year, any model
Me
by
too.
just looking at it.
Me too.
And I still have a love of automobiles in a very deep way. I love cars, Andy.
Yeah, very fascinating because my mother's father owned a large Lincoln Mercury dealership as well. So I remember spending a fair amount of time in that as well when I was a kid. Very interesting. So what's the one book that every salesperson should read? Doesn't have to be a sales book, but the one book every salesperson should read.
Think and Grow Rich.
Napoleon Hill.
Yeah.
Probably the number one, interesting, probably the number one recommendation so far of all the guests that we've interviewed is still Napoleon Hill.
I think that in life, if you can figure out your 3 Ps, your passion, build a plan, and make it your daily purpose, nobody can stop you. People overestimate what they could do in the short period of time, and they underestimate what they could do in a long period of time. Goldmine was a 10-year overnight sensation, and I think Nimble's going to be the same thing. The CRM marketplace is $36 billion in the next 2 years, and I think I can capture north of 1% of that. What's the math?
1% of 36 billion?
Yeah.
360 million.
That's a lot of ducats.
That's a lot of ducats. What's your favorite music to listen to psych yourself up for an important call?
Wow.
I've got my fingers crossed on this one.
So I grew up on my dad's 78s, and my dad used to put 78s in jukebox in the 30s and 40s. So I love swing and jazz music, like Benny Goodman,
big
Duke
band era,
Tom
yeah.
Basie, and I love blues, and I love I grew up on rock, but I'm really a blend of all that. I think some of my favorite music was the progressive rock people because they blended blues, jazz,
Right.
swing, and rock together. But I think that nobody did that kind of music better than Queen did back in the day. Freddie Mercury in that band just really killed it. And if you think about football games when they want to get people really powered up, that's
We Will Rock You, yeah.
But I'll tell you what, some of the music that my kids listen to these days, they kind of use that before they go to their lacrosse games and stuff. What do I still love some of the classic stuff. So I'll just go with
Queen's good.
Queen.
Yeah, Queen's good. All classic, those classically trained musicians.
I'll tell you what. There's a gal that interviews me periodically, and she does this thing. In fact, you should actually start doing this yourself. You ask them 3 songs that they like, and during the intermission, you play that. And what happens is it gets the guest in a mood, a positive mood. And so she asked me, what are some of the songs I like? And one of my favorite songs is Paul Simon, "Diamonds on the Soles of Her Shoes."
Yeah, from the Graceland album, yeah.
And so she would play that, and that's such an inspirational song. It's such a positive song.
Yeah, we'll have to check. As long as I don't have to pay royalties, that's a great idea.
Okay, cool.
I don't want ASCAP coming after me. So, what's the first sales activity you do every day?
I prepare for my day the night before. So The first thing I do every day is I prep myself the night before by reviewing what's coming up, who I'm doing it with, what's happened with those people before, what's going on in their lives, and what are my goals for this engagement. And because it was so much work to do that, I built Nimble. And one of the things I built in Nimble was a new smart agenda. So there's a new iOS app that's coming out in the next week or two. And what it'll do is it'll read your calendar off your phone, read your phone book off your phone, magically put that together into a smart agenda where before you meet with somebody, it shows you your day, It shows you the people, allows you to drill into those people to get a rich, nimble record on them, showing you what's happened, what's going to happen, and what's going on in their lives, including their social profiles. And I don't know if you know it or not, but I use that to connect with you. I walked in your digital footprint. I added value to your conversation. And I figured out what was going on in your world. That's how I knew you were talking to Miles.
Mm-hmm.
And also this morning when I needed to contact you before my daughter's conference that I had to push this meeting a little bit, I used it to connect with you, to call you. And so I think that in our overconnected, overcommunicated world, we need help. And so you should prepare the night before so you could let things muddle in your head during the night, and you could not worry about last minute before a meeting, so you could be present and focused with people. Because that's, I think, I tell people this often, Andy. I think the reason we're on this planet is to grow our souls and help other people grow theirs, and we do that by being present with other people, by listening to them, and figuring out their passion, plan, and purpose. And through that conversation and vibration, we power each other to succeed. And in the end, that's all we leave this earth with, is those vibrations of those connections.
Oh, I agree. Being present, listening. That's what it's all about if you're in sales. Hey, I want to thank you, Jon, for joining me today. My guest has been Jon Ferrara, CEO of Nimble. Jon, please tell folks how they can find out more about Nimble.
If you want to learn about Nimble, just go to www.nimble.com. Follow us on Twitter @Nimble. Connect with me on Twitter. I'm JON_Ferrara, FERRARA. And Andy, thank you so much for the opportunity to connect for this conversation. It's these types of connections that deepen relationships, and I truly value yours and our friendship.
Well, I do as well, Jon, and this was just so much fun, as always, to talk to you. So remember, make it a part of your day, everybody. Make part of your day every day to deliberately learn something new to help you amp up your business. Subscribing to this podcast is an easy way to do that, because that way you'll make sure you don't miss any of our great conversations with top experts like our guest today, Jon Ferrara, who share their experience and expertise about how to accelerate the growth of your business. So thanks for joining us, and until next time, this is Andy Paul. Good selling, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the show. If you like what you heard and want to make sure you don't miss any upcoming episodes, please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Stitcher.com. For more information about today's guest, visit my website at andypaul.com.